welcome back, everyone, for another episode of the CBSI Hot 10 show. Make sure you go over to comicbookinvest.com and check out the article, or I may drop in a few extra little tidbits and details that I don't speak to here on the show tonight. Also, check out all of the content we have on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And for those of you out there who haven't tried Whatnot yet, please use the link down below and get yourselves a free $15 to spend on whatever you want with whomever you want. No strings attached. You get $15 on your first purchase to spend with anyone you like. With that said, I will be making my return to the platform over on Whatnot in about a week or so. There is a special event being announced soon. More details to come on that, but I can tell you that I will have some of these awesome Hulk packs to give away when I do my show once I set it up pretty soon. So these are those comic packs that have the special edition Hulk books. They're randomly inserted. We don't know what's inside the packs, and should be a lot of fun. So I'll let you know more once I know more about that. But if you're just here for the Hot 10, don't worry. I will get to the list right after this short little break.
Notable sales.
And our first notable sale is this classic romance book, True to Life Romances, number 10 from Star Publications back in 1952. Pretty fun LB Cole cover. This is the highest graded copy that we have in the census, and it's sold for an all-time high because it's the highest graded. It's the highest selling book with an 8.0 selling for $14,400 this past week. That's a big number for a romance book. And yes, it is cool. It's an LB Cole cover, though I would like to point out that my man is kissing her so hard, it looks like he broke her neck. Like her head is tilted on a harsh angle. But still, romance, is that the next golden age thing to pop? Just like pre-code horror? I don't know. I know people have been talking about it for a while, but I can say there were a number of really high sales for these classic romance books over at Heritage last week. So it is something to keep an eye on going forward. Also, something else I was keeping an eye on this week, we had another interesting sale, and that was this second print for Invincible number 60. That's it. It's not a special edition, ratio, limited anything. It's just the second print for Invincible issue 60. And this thing sold for an all-time high of, can you guess? $2,500 this past week, which is a huge increase from the last sale, which was just a couple of weeks ago on January 28th, where it was only $690. I don't know what triggered this sale, but for all intents and purposes, it looks like it was completed when I went through for the eBay sale prices. So unless it gets canceled in the next couple of days, that looks like it's the new high watermark for this book. I know there's a lot of excitement with Invincible right now, a lot of expectations that Conquest, who shows up in the next issue, might be showing up soon, but second print here, doing big numbers. So just something to keep in mind. Now, before we get into the Hot 10, something else to keep in mind is save yourselves 10% off your next BCW order. You got to place an order to get your bags, your boards, short boxes, long boxes, top loaders, pages for your cards, whatever you need to keep your comics and collectibles safe. You got to spend that money. You might as well save some money while you do it. So you can use the link, but definitely use the code RENA10 to save yourself 10% your entire order. Because, again, you got to buy that stuff anyway to keep your books safe. You might as well save some money while you do it. And with that all said, if you want to see the Hot 10, it's coming at you right now.
Number 10.
And with our first book, we have the J. Scott Campbell second print incentive for Magic number 1. Yes, occasionally these things do pop. It's been a while since we had one of these later printing incentives kind of hit. I mean, we've had a lot of Absolute Batmans and Wonder Woman's third print 1 in 25s, fourth print 1 in 25s, etc. that came close, but with only like a handful of sales. They just didn't really do much. But this book this week has kind of stepped out past the pack, and with over a dozen sales just over the last few days, averaging $55, this one is standing out from the crowd. So it does earn a spot here at the bottom of the list, but something to keep an eye on going ahead. This is the regular cover for the cover A. It's just a virgin version, I think, with a recolored purple background, which is pretty nice, and it is a nice looking cover. I know a lot of people picked up this 1 in 25 because apart from the regular second print, you were also able to add on blank incentives. So those blank magic covers are also pretty valuable, especially for those of you who go to conventions and like to get sketches and remarks, signatures, etc. Those things can be gold. So I know a lot of people and retailers ordered up getting those blanks to get this book. So with those extra numbers out there, I'm surprised this is doing as well as it is, but it is J. Scott Campbell and he has his fans. So I guess we shouldn't be all that surprised. But with that said, it's here at number 10, which will lead us into our next spot here at number 9.
Number 9.
So up next, we have a little bit of a follow-up on Captain America: Brave New World. I saw it this past weekend or last weekend, and I got to tell you, I enjoyed it. Don't let all the critics and Rotten Tomatoes scores and all the online chatter fool you. I'm telling you, give it a shot, give it a try. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would because I didn't go into it with high expectations. By no means is it a perfect movie, but it is a decent movie, and it was a lot of fun. And not to spoil things, a character did show back up in the MCU, and that was Betty Ross. Yes, Liv Tyler showed back up, which has gotten a lot of people thinking that maybe now that she's there, perhaps sometime down the line, she may become a Red She-Hulk herself. Don't know if that's planned to happen. I haven't really heard anything solid in that way. I think it's just speculation, but you can see where it would come from. So people are buying Hulk 16, that Ian Churchill cover here. There's a couple of versions for this book, some incentives as well, but we're just looking at the regular cover, and it's got almost about 20 sold, which is up 300% from last week's sales, because I think there's only like 3 or 4 sales last week, and so it's a high increase in percentage after the movie showed up, and again, we saw her show up, so that's where I'm thinking this is getting driven from, averaging $25 with a high of $43 raw, nowhere near the highs we've seen before on this book, but it's definitely trending in that direction for now. We'll see where it goes, see if any more news or rumors come about with, Betty Ross doing anything further in the MCU. But it was a nice surprise to see Liv Tyler come back to the MCU in that movie. Now, with that said, let's keep this thing rolling and get on to our next book.
Number 8.
While we're talking about Brave New World, we might as well talk about Isaiah Bradley, who was also in the film a good bit more than I think a lot of people might have expected. He played a significant role here in this, and he'll be around. Like maybe we'll see more of him. So with that, more people are going back and picking up Truth, Red, White, and Black #1, that Captain America, that secret tale of the original first Captain America. This book, 30 plus sales, up almost 300% as far as volume goes, because there were only a few sales last week. So 30 plus sales this week is a decent increase. Prices are only averaging around $12 with a high right around $20. CGC 9/8 hitting 120. Something to keep an eye on. This is that kind of a prestige format, almost cardstock cover. So if it gets damaged, it could be permanent in that way, not easily pressable. So just keep that in mind when you're buying your copies, and just something to keep an eye on as volumes go up, because who knows when we'll see Isaiah Bradley again. But with the movie, like I said, better than I thought it was going to be. It still seems to be moving some books here a week after its release. Now, with that said, let's keep it rolling and get on to our lucky number 7.
Number 7.
And here at number 7, we have another second print book that kind of took me by surprise this week. And this is Geiger number 10. This only came out like 2 months ago, thereabouts, maybe a month and a half ago at this point. But we're already at a second print, and the second print is the first cover appearance of The Glowing Woman. And you can see her right there, Gary Frank. Pretty awesome art, pretty cool looking cover. And I'm assuming that it didn't get ordered very heavily because copies are selling with over 30 sold the last week. This came out last Wednesday, not 2 days ago Wednesday, but 10 days ago Wednesday, averaging $15 now and hitting highs around $20. There were some lots selling, like groups of 3 up to 5 that were also selling. So maybe there are copies. I don't know. I didn't notice this one when I was at the shop, but I already got the regular first printer number 10. I wasn't thinking of grabbing a second print because I just didn't think I needed one. I already have the original. But with that said, this second print is doing some business right now, so it's something to keep an eye on going forward. And with that said, let's keep it going.
Number 6.
Well, at number 6, it seems the market has decided there is yet another Mark Spears cover for Spawn that they would like to go and purchase. with that, this week's book is Gunslinger Spawn number 18. And we have here this Violator cover with all the little trolley dudes. I know Mark had talked about this book before, and this week it's up in volume with over 20 sales, up 75% from last week, and it's averaging $22 now, which is up almost 40% from last week because this was still like 10 to 12 bucks. Now it's up to 22. It's not doing bad. Even with a high of $50, it seems like this is the next book that people are going after. The other Spawn covers still doing all right. Some of the other ones are out there still. I don't know. I don't know when this train is going to end, but it seems like it still keeps chugging along with one book after another, peaking and spiking on the market week after week. But with that said, that's our number 6 book. Let's see what we got here to start off the top half of the list at number 5.
Number 5.
Okay, so number 5 is a favorite of mine. This is an all-time classic. You guys know it's First Silver Surfer. It's Coming of Galactus, starting one of the most epic story arcs in comic book history, if you will, with 48, 49, and 50. One of my favorites. I've been watching this for a while. As I was seeing 49 spike, seeing that Earth X Silver Surfer book spike, I was wondering if any of that would bleed over to 48. It kept consistently rolling along, and volumes are still about the same as where they were the last couple of weeks, in that kind of dozen to 15, 16 kind of range, which is still a lot of copies for a classic book like this, a Silver Age book. It just doesn't come up all that often, but copies, I mean, well, I shouldn't say that, but still, those are kind of interesting volumes. It's not like a new release book where we're seeing dozens and hundreds of copies selling. So 15 to 16 is interesting, especially when you factor in the fact that the prices went up as much as they did, as this week's average for all books are about $1,500, up 34% from last week, where it was closer to about $1,000, maybe $1,100. And that's factoring in all the low grades, which are in the $300 to $400 raws and really, really low graded range. And then you have the higher graded things like a CGC 8.0 that sold for $3,100 this past week. I think last week's high was a $2,500 raw book, but you got to factor all those things into consideration. And just like I did last week with Fantastic 449, this kind of jump in price, I couldn't ignore it. Because, yes, higher grade books are going to sell for more money. But I think the point of it is that more people this week are spending on those higher priced books and spending bigger bucks than they were last week, which puts it a little bit higher on the list and earns this a spot here at number 5. Now, with that said, that's not the only classic book that we have on the list. Let me show you what I got here next.
Number 4.
I know you're probably expecting Fantastic 449 here, but no, we have a different book for you. We have Amazing Spider-Man 129. Yes, it is the first appearance of the Punisher. Now, why are we looking at the first appearance of the Punisher here this week? Well, we are inching closer and closer to the release of Daredevil Born Again over on Disney Plus, starting up in March, and we know we're getting the Punisher back in that series. So, what is that doing to the market? Well, with a couple dozen sales, 31% increase in volume from last week, we're seeing more and more copies move. And those averages are still pretty solid, averaging $1,465, on average. So yes, there are low grades in there, $400 or $500 beat up fair copies. There are also some higher grade books like a CGC 9.4 that sold for $3,960. Then there's also a lot of $1,500 books in there, which is where we get our average from. It's across the gamut of all grades. But like the last book with Fantastic 448, more people are spending on those higher grades than they were the week before, and in more volume. That's where we're seeing the increase, and that's why I'm putting it here on the list at number 4. So something to keep an eye on, especially for you people who do have the bigger bucks to spend on bigger books like this. Something to keep an eye on as we are seeing the price trending up and volumes trending up for now. Who knows what will happen next week, but I still think we got some time before Daredevil shows up, but only about a week or so, and who knows when the Punisher is first going to show up on the show. So with that, something to definitely keep an eye on as we roll on with the list with our top 3.
Number 3.
And as I was talking about Daredevil, here we go. Daredevil 227, the beginning of the Born Again storyline. Yes, the show is loosely based off of this storyline, kind of, sort of, a little bit. Newer books also included, as we're going to get the Muse and Kingpin as the mayor, etc. But in this issue, a lot of people are going back to it because we are getting those extra bits where Kingpin learns Daredevil's secret, etc. across this storyline. But 227, it's hit the list before, but it's hitting the list this week because of a serious surge in volume. I mean, 60 plus sales, up over 361% volume wise with all of those sales. Just copies moving, lower grades, higher grades, etc. Averaging $18. Higher grade raws going for like $35, where those lower grade, well-read copies are still kind of like 10, 12. And then CGC 9/8, I had it listed at about 200, and then another one sold today for 225. So the high water mark this week for 9/8 is 225, as I think it was today's sale. With that, again, another book to keep an eye on as we inch closer towards Daredevil Born Again over on Disney Plus. So we'll see if this interest and this volume continues into next week, or if the hype is finally caught up to the excitement. I don't know. But we've got 2 more books for you, so I'm not going to belabor the point, and we're going to get right to them now.
Number 2.
So, news just a day or so ago, I think, that Natasha Lyonne is going to be starring in a feature film adapting this Joe Hill story, Basket Full of Heads. I remember this DC Black Label series, a lot of hype when it came out. I mean, Joe Hill is, Stephen King's son, so there is horror in the blood. They know what they're doing over there with this. And with that said, this is still a pretty awesome cover. There's 2 covers on this and the second print. Keep an eye out for all of them, but the cover A seems to be the one that's moving the most, and it sold just over the last few days, 110 copies. That's a huge number and volume for a book like this that's been kind of sitting out there for a while. Granted, a lot of these sold for cover price and even undercover to start, but after those all cleared out, the average has been brought up to about $10 with sets, whether that be from issues 1 through 4, some people selling like 1 through 7. Different lots and sets have been selling also for like $15 to $25. So keep that in mind as well, as CGC 9/8 are still only in the $50 to $60 range right now. All things to consider when you're out there shopping for your books. Like I said, this one, I saw a few $2 sales, and then I saw a few higher than that got that average up to $10, some $15 here and there. So something to keep an eye on. I know I still got my copy around here from before. It was a solid read from what I remember, but it was ages ago. I got to read this thing again. But with that said, that's one book that just kind of really took the news and started running with it with volume, as did our next book, which I'm going to get to right now as our top book of the week.
And our number 1.
And with more news this week that Netflix is going to be adapting this into an animated, I guess, series, maybe an animated movie. I don't know, but it's going to Netflix Animation, which has been killing it lately, or in the last few years, really. So the property I'm talking about is from Image Comics. It's called Knights. So Knights #1 has been doing very well this week with a ton of volume. We're talking over 120 sales. Again, averaging about $10, hitting highs of 35 on this book. This thing started off again for cover price, just like Basket Full of Heads, even though Basket Full of Heads actually started undercover. This started at cover, then quickly shot up. I think since Tuesday, the cheapest sales have all been like $25. So this thing got it more expensive as the week went on. The announcement is less than a week old, but what's coming is an animated something from Netflix. Usually that doesn't move the needle, but consider the fact that Netflix has been destroying it, in my opinion, with their animated stuff. Arcane is awesome. Castlevania and Castlevania Nocturne, both awesome. You got things like Love, Death, and Robots. Lots of animation there, apart from all the other anime and other shows that they've been adding consistently to the platform. I think a lot of people are going to be interested in this and looking forward to this, as evidenced by the surge in volume and price that we've seen this week. So definitely something to keep an eye on going forward. And also definitely something for you guys to stay here and stick around. Now that the list is over, make sure you stick around for the qualified. The boys are coming up right after I'm done. They're going to be celebrating Silk. Artist passed away recently. They're going to be going through the whole collection, a whole rundown of good stuff. The boys got plenty of other fun segments for you, so stick around and check that out with the qualified starting up next. And as I said, keep an eye on the channel for all the other shows we have here. We got Saturday Night Special coming up tomorrow, Dark Side on Sunday. I'll do my new Wednesday watch list on Monday, etc. And keep an eye out for my announcement for when we'll be doing these Hulk packs, because I will be giving some away very, very soon. So more news to come, and I'll see you all later with some more content. All right.